أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome, dear viewers, to the program. Think about it. As always, we ask you to hit the subscribe button if you like the content that we share with you. And we also ask you to share with us your ideas and the topics that you feel should be covered and should be talked about in public light. Usually, what ends up happening is in this industry and in our lives in general, there are certain trends that take place in society. And these trends are focused on more than your daily issues and sometimes even things that might be minute but have a huge impact on our lives. And so that's why when we reach out to you, you have the numbers flowing down below and the ticker tape at the bottom as well. The reason why this is happening is because we want you to actually reach out to us and let us know what you'd like us to talk about and what you'd like us to cover. Today, like most of my shows, I will be starting off with a story. This story is of a young boy named Abdurrahman. Abdurrahman goes to a convenience store with his father. When he goes into the convenience store, he's of course nagging his dad or asking his dad that he wants to buy some chocolates, he wants to buy something for himself. And so Abdurrahman's dad reaches into his pocket and he takes out $5. And he gives it to Abdurrahman. He says, "You can buy whatever you want for $5. Go, enjoy, while I go and get groceries or whatever is required." Now, long story short, Abdurrahman goes and he finds something that is for $5. He's very excited. He's like, "Oh, okay, I can buy this." So he takes this item and he goes up to the counter to pay for it. And in the meantime, Abdurrahman's dad does a little bit of shopping, buys some milk, buys some eggs, buys some minor items that are required for groceries, and comes to the counter as well. Now, after the person scans Abdurrahman's item, they look at Abdurrahman and they say, the cashier looks at Abdurrahman and says, "Okay, that would be $5.65, please." Abdurrahman is very confused at this moment, looking at this man. And Abdurrahman says, "No, it's for $5. It was in a place where it said $5. I have five. What's the 65 cents?" And so the cashier laughs a little bit and smiles. He's a young boy. Says that, "Son, this is the taxes that are on top of the product's price." And so Abdurrahman looks towards his dad, very confused. What are taxes? And so Abdurrahman's dad says, "Taxes are money that we give to the government and that are on different items, and this goes into the government's treasury and fund." Abdurrahman is still very confused. He's like, "Why does the government want my money?" And so Abdurrahman's dad is like, "I'll explain it to you." Abdurrahman's dad puts down all of his things that he has bought as well, and they amount to $100. The cashier scans everything and looks at the price, and Abdurrahman's looking and he knows it's for $100 after he does all his calculations. And the cashier says and shows the price on the projector or the screen that comes up in the cashier's line, the LED, that it's $113 that they owe. So Abdurrahman says they're taking $13 more than what the price of the things were. And so Abdurrahman's dad explains to Abdurrahman that we pay taxes on products and on services. These taxes go to the government. And so Abdurrahman says, "Why does the government want our money?" And so as they're walking and they leave the store, they have their bags in. Abdurrahman's dad is putting everything into the car and they're going to sit down. Abdurrahman's dad tells Abdurrahman that you go to school and it's for free. The reason why it's for free is because we pay taxes. We go to the hospital to get an operation done, or we go to the hospital when we're feeling a bit down, and they check us up and they give us health services. These are for free. Healthcare is for free because of the taxes that we pay. And taxes are money that the government takes from us and help our lives. They make the roads better. They make sure the police stations are working and they pay the police officers. They pay firefighters. They pay nurses and doctors and teachers and different people too. So then Abdurrahman was like, "Oh, so we pay taxes to make our community run." And Abdurrahman's dad says that is absolutely correct. Now, that is the concept of taxes. And that's something that we're going to decipher today. The main idea of today's show is to understand What's up with our taxes? Where's the money going? Why is it going? By the story that I've just shared to you, I'm pretty sure we can all agree and understand that giving taxes for services, for products, and even our salaries being taxed is actually working in some way to benefit us and the system. So, when you drive your car outside and you see a road that is broken or it has patches or that it's caved in some place or it has cracks, you have full right to complain about it. You have full right to try to follow it up because guess what? Alongside with you and every other citizen out there, including me, our money is being deducted from our salaries. When we pay for products, we're paying more than the actual price of the product to make sure that these aesthetics, these things that might be smoother for our cars to drive on, better for us to get services, and for just a smooth and a flow of a day going well. All these things amount to giving us that flow, giving us that smoothness, giving us that regularity, and giving us a nice standard of living. And that is why taxes are cut. However, in the past 2 to 3 years in the province of Ontario, in Canada in general, but I'd like to specify the province of Ontario because I'm a citizen of Ontario. A lot of our viewers are citizens of Ontario, and a lot of people who are immigrating and coming to Canada tend to come to the province of Ontario as well. So, looking at this province, looking at Ontario, if you have a look at the taxes and the amount of taxes that are cut, so let's say that a person goes and wants to live in a house and does not own a house and they want to rent it. And they come up with an agreement with the landlord, the person who's going to be giving them the house, that they would pay of a total of the whole year, $30,000. So $30,000 is the set rent for this house for the entire year. Wonderful. Okay. Now, that means that if this person does math in their mind, they're like, let's make a budget. We all make budgets, don't we? If you ask your parents, if they're close by to you, if you yourself are an adult, we all make budgets nowadays. We make money, we go out, we do multiple jobs at times, we do businesses on the side, we do extra work and projects to get that side income coming in so we can meet our expenses. And based on all this, we make budgets, we understand what our expenses are going to be. So if our friend, somebody, let's say Abdurrahman grows up and he's got a job now and he wants to go and he rents a house for $30,000 a year. Now, Abdurrahman gets a job which pays him $50,000, or let's say pays him $45,000. That's usually the minimum normal wage that people start on. People also start on lower than that, and I commend them. And they're really brave and really strong people, especially skilled workers. I don't believe should be paid any less money. I think they should be on a higher tax bracket and should be on a higher, not tax bracket, but a higher salary bracket as well. So if the house is for $30,000 and he has $45,000 that he's making in a year, that leaves $15,000 technically and theoretically for him to use on groceries, expenses, his car, gas, you name it, all these different things that play into our daily lives. However, little does Abdurrahman know, or little do we know if we don't do our budgeting and we don't understand the system we live in properly, that the federal tax on $45,000 or $49,000, $20 to, I think it's, well, anything to that and less is approximately 15% on a federal level. Federal means entire Canada. So that would include every province. That would have Ontario, that would have Alberta, that would have Saskatchewan, that would have, Newfoundland and Labrador. It would have all of them. Prince Edward Island, everything included. So that's the federal tax on this amount. On top of that, there's a provincial tax as well. So Alberta has its own, Ontario has its own, other countries have its own. So on a salary of $49,000 or less, the Ontario tax, the provincial tax, is about $5.05 in general. Could be higher, but that is what it is right now. So that whops the total to 20.5% off of a $45,000, $49,000 salary. So that means if you're paying $30,000 for your house for the year, $11,000 has already been cut and deducted from your salary just because of taxes. So you've paid $11,000 of your hard-earned money to the government of Canada so that you could have a smooth standard of living. However, A person who's making $49,000 or less, do you and I, people who live in Canada, believe that they have a very good standard of living? Fruit for thought, something that we should all think about. Now, if you're making more money than that, then your tax bracket changes. If you're somewhere between 49,000 to 98,000, which is a huge jump, this is almost 50,000 or more dollars. Your federal tax becomes 20.5%, and your provincial tax, if you live in Ontario, is about 9.15%, which is a whopping 29.65%. So even if you're making a high flyer salary, you're paying about $30,000 in taxes every year. Now, the question is, they've taken this taxes. A lot of people, the problem that a lot of people have that I've noticed as well, that I've talked to between my neighbors, family, friends, cousins, people that we know, siblings as well, is that a lot of people have a problem with the amount of taxes that are being cut. But why do they have a problem with the amount of taxes being cut? See, if I live in a country who I'm paying taxes to so that they give me facilities and benefits, that means regardless of how much tax is cut, I can live, survive, and have a good life. So even if I make $100,000 and you take $80,000, I only pocket $20,000 at the end of the year. If I have a home because of the facilities of the country, if I have good service, if I have healthcare that is taken care of, if I have, schooling and all these other expenses taken care of, I don't have a problem. You see, money is not itself a resource. Money is a medium to get resource. You want water, you need money. You want a car, you need money. You want to buy a house, you need money. So money itself is a representation or a means or a platform to get yourself resources and assets. So if you already have resources and assets, there's no problem. If I ever got a job where somebody says that, you know what, I'm hiring you for this job, 3 meals a day are guaranteed, your groceries are taken care of, give us a list of whatever groceries you like to buy, and we'll give you a car that fulfills your needs of how many members of family that you have. We'll get you a house that fulfills your needs of how many members of family that you have. Utilities are already taken care of. Everything is done. You're not getting paid a salary for this job, but you're getting all these resources that help you survive on your daily life. I would take that bet. A lot of people might not, because usually they want to save money for something. But if you're getting all those things, then why are you saving money? What's the point of it? That money's not going to go with you into the grave. That money's not going to go with you when you're gone from this world, basically. So what we need to understand is that taxes are supposed to be given to the government, to a country, so that the country can self-regulate and make sure all of its processes and operations are working and running for you, because your money is being taken from them. So we can see that taxes are usually given so that there is a benefit of what? Roads are being made and being corrected. Bridges. Diplomatic missions. That means embassies, consulates of Canada in other countries. Immigration, people are coming in, going out, immigration budgets are made. All right. Trade with other countries and deals that are brought up, such as NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And there are many more of the sort. Jails, if we have people who are, criminals and they're not good in society and they act out and do things that are illegal and they're taken to penitentiary, they're taken to the jails run using our tax monies as well. The police, people are supposed to be law enforcers. People are supposed to make sure that everybody's adhering to the law and everybody's abiding by rules and policies set out by a country. All right. Firefighters, people who go out and they make sure that there are no hazardous things. And firefighters don't only fight fire, but they fight different issues as well in society on a daily basis. And then taxes are given to government employees as well. So if you are a doctor who is employed by the government, the salary is coming from the government. All right? Taxpayers are paying you your salary. If you're a police officer, again, you're a government employee, taxpayers are paying you your salary. If you are a teacher, taxpayers are paying you your salary. If you are ministers, MPs, MPPs, that means if you're members of parliaments, members of provincial parliaments, you work in the city hall, you work for the city, you work for the town, you work for any municipality or, let's say, government jurisdiction or area, then you are being paid through the taxpayers' money. That's basically what it is. Public schools are funded by taxes as well. Medical benefits that we should be getting, and we go to hospitals, are also funded by taxpayers' money. So, all these different things, it sounds great that you get all these things. The question now, where it gets serious, it's about to get serious. I may not get emotional, I may get emotional, I may get angry, or whatever the case is, but here's where it gets serious. Is the taxpayers' money being put to good use? You see, we've heard about teachers going on strike. We've heard about governments making new rules and laws and jurisdictions and different things that they want to have and want to do. All these things boil down to one particular aspect of life. How do these things directly affect me as a Canadian citizen, resident, a person who lives in Canada, in the province of Ontario, because I'm taking Ontario specifically. So, the question here is that, are the roads outside, every single road, really well built? Are they maintained really well? That's number one. Number two, diplomatic missions. So, I'm a Muslim man. Okay, I have friends of different faiths, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. We understand and respect each other, but it doesn't mean that we see eye to eye in everything that we do. So, diplomatic missions, that means embassies, consulates, and diplomatic ties that we have with countries, basically relationships that we form with other countries, are also being built. That means the money that goes into investing, people who fly there, they come back, people who open up offices in those places, all of a taxpayer's money is being used for this as well. Do I as a person, do you as a person agree with every diplomatic mission out there? Can we come to a consensus? Every year they send us a consensus. They ask us about how many people live in our house, what our income is. They want to have information on the citizens of their city, the citizens of their province, their territory, their municipality, their town, you name it. So we very often disclose information related to where we are. The question is that, why aren't government people who we are funding disclosing all the information and all the things that they're doing to us? That's just one aspect and one question. And it's not that big of a deal. It's going to get more hard. It's going to get a bit more real the more I move into it. Number two, I talked about teachers going on strike. Dear viewers, the one profession out of a few that I can name, but probably the one profession, the one entity of government, the one entity, the one employee of government that we come across sometime in our life, have to 100%, is a teacher. We have studied in schools, we had teachers. If you are married, you have children, you are dealing with teachers. These are people that we talk to. These are people who educate our children. These are people who play their role in part in making children analytical, making sure that their minds open up, being able to think critically, being able to deduce right from wrong. A teacher is a wonderful occupation. A teacher is someone who doesn't get enough credit, honestly. Why is it that my tax-paying money that I'm paying, up to 20.5% on the lowest scale, and up to 41.16% if it's on a higher scale, that's a lot of money, 41%. That's more than a quarter of your salary in a year. That probably pays off of the person who's at the lowest bracket. So if we're paying this much in taxes, the question is that those people who directly affect us every day, are they being fairly compensated? See, my problem is not that the teacher's being paid taxes or being paid out of the taxes that I pay. Pay the teacher from my taxes. In fact, I think the 20.5% that I pay if I'm at the lowest scale should go all the teachers, no problem, okay? Pay them the taxes. The question here is that a teacher is someone you face every single day, is a member of society, is approachable. This entity, this employee, seems to be having difficulties in office and being able to operate as a teacher because they're getting pay cuts, because their benefits are being slashed and because they're not getting the proper support that they should be getting, especially by the Ontario government, which has not done anything right since June. That might be a bit biased, but why is it that bias exists? See, if anybody should take a pay cut, it should be people who are at the very top. A person who's a minister does not meet the average person, the average citizen every day. If I want to meet a minister, I would have to book an appointment, I'd have to call their office, I'd have to stand in line, I'd have to go outside their office and wait there. And after all the paperwork and emails and forms and things that I filled out, the minister can still say, sorry, I'm busy, or I can't meet you. Do you know I tried to get Justin Trudeau on this show as well? I tried to get other MPs and ministers and other people around as well, member of parliaments or provincial parliaments. We do get some people, but guess what? Some people say no. Some people say no because they have the right to say no. But here's the question. They might be doing work that's big. Does that mean they should be compensated that's big? No. People should be compensated according to what? According to what their needs are. So if my man Doug Ford or Justin Trudeau, Stephen Litchie, or the MP, let's say Umal Al-Ghabra, or Adam Van Koeverden, or another MP somewhere else, or an MPP, if these people in a year require $60,000, $100,000 after taxes or before taxes to make sure that their expenses are met, that's how much they should be getting. They should not be flying at $160K to $200K a year. It does not make sense. Whereas the person who's a teacher starts off at $30K. Whereas people who are teachers who come from abroad, immigration, let's talk about immigration. Our tax money goes there too. So our tax money goes into the process of immigration, and people who are doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, because that's the example we're talking about, come from overseas. And when they come into the province of Ontario, particularly this one, because they haven't studied in Ontario or they don't have some kind of a certificate, even though they're qualified teachers, they don't get jobs in the public sector. They have to work in a private school where they make like what, $2,000 a month before taxes, $3,000 a month before taxes. So our money might go into a process that has a good heart and has a good ambition, but that ambition is never fully met. Secondly, medical benefits is another place where our money goes to. Now, if my tax paying money, 41%, 37%, 29%, 20.5%, regardless of where I am, I'm paying a lot of taxes. So are you, so are the people. Of course, there's the question of some people who evade taxes or do other stuff, but that's not really the law-abiding person we're talking about. We're talking about the Canadian who is law-abiding, the Canadian who wants to just have a good life, the Canadian who wants to do a job, come home to his or her family, the Canadian who wants to go out on weekends, the Canadian who wants to have a potluck or a barbecue sometime, the Canadian who wants to be a valuable member of society, but doesn't have the stress or the sort of expenses on their neck. A person who isn't stressed out, traumatized, going through depression, just because of expenses. These people are paying taxes for what? What are they paying taxes for? We talk about health, right? The health sector. So we talk about medical benefits. Why is it that when so much taxes, so many things are going, why is it that we have not enough nurses or not enough doctors? Why is it that when I go to an emergency room and if I'm coughing out blood or if there's a serious situation going on, if there's a child who has anaphylaxis and is going through an allergic reaction, if there's another child who comes in whose arm has broken, if somebody who's just been through an accident walks in, if someone comes in and they don't feel well at all and they don't even know what's wrong with them, why is it that they have to wait 4, 5, 6, 10, I don't know how many hours at times just to get medical attention? The care might be for free, but the service, for the lack of a better word, is well under par and under the standard that it should be in. Again, the question goes, my tax money, your tax money is paying for the immigration process too. Don't doctors make their way onto the Canadian shores? Don't doctors who are qualified, who've been doctors for 5, 10, 15 years from different countries, who've performed God knows how many thousands of operations come onto Canadian shore? But guess what happens? They're not allowed to be doctors anymore because they don't have a Canadian certificate. Because they have to go all the way back to medical school, do 4, 5, 7, 8 years of that, and then they might be eligible to be in a hospital. All of this, the system itself, does not make sense. We are paying for something that is not thought out through, or not, thoroughly thought out. or that's not thoroughly planned. We're paying for something that is not planned. We're paying for something that doesn't make sense at times. If a teacher comes onto Canadian shores, a person who's been a professor at university for 10 years, let's say in India, they come over here, a professor who teaches, let's say, chemistry. Now, chemistry in India and chemistry in Canada are the same. The periodic table has not changed. The elements have not changed. The way iron is represented in one country is still represented the same in Canada. All right? Students, doesn't matter where you're from, this person passed through the entire immigration process, knows the language, and has showed up on Canadian shore. Why isn't he or she eligible to get a job in the university? Why aren't they being paid and being used for the skills that they brought forward to this country? If a person is a doctor who's a neurologist or a cardiologist, and they want to come over and they've been a doctor for 15 years in Pakistan, in Jamaica, in China, in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, in the UK, in some other country, when they come on to Canadian shores, why is it that all of a sudden they can't work in a hospital? Do people not bleed red over here? Do people in those countries bleed blue? Is the heart in a different position? Are infants not infants in that country, in this country? Is cardiology a completely different game in that country to this country? Nobody's saying, okay, if you want, there should be a process, right? Just like immigration is a process that taxpayers pay for, there should be a process. Get somebody who's a doctor to come on to Canadian shores and make them give an exam, a license, a test, just like we do for our driver's license, just like we do for any other test. Make them do that. If they pass it, all well and good. Let them practice what they know and what they're skilled for, what their passion is. I, on a personal level, know at least 7 or 8 people who are qualified doctors who are amazing, actually, when it comes to explaining things, because there have been medical issues and you're like, hey, I've got this issue, and they know how to decipher and explain to you what the situation is. And when they talk, they know exactly what they're talking about. And people back home can give, evidence and justify how great they were doctors when they were back in their home countries and where they were. These people, these 7, 8 people that I know myself are driving Uber, have changed their career, went into IT, went into policing, went into something else, and have changed their lives completely. When theoretically, they were called onto Canadian shore and given points based on the fact that they were medical practitioners. There's something wrong with the system. You call somebody, praising them and giving them giving them points, or as kids in Toronto nowadays, or in the GTA or Ontario would say, gas people up, make them look all good and great. And then when they come onto the shores, the very skill that you valued and you set as a base for them to come to Canada, you nullify. It doesn't make sense. And out of all this, the taxpayers' money was used for the process. The case processing agent, the person who's making sure everything is done there, the very boards and societies that run the Canadian or the Ontarian, the provincial, boards, medical boards, and, associations and colleges are running through the taxpayers' money. So my money is going through, but I'm not getting what I'm paying for. Does that make sense? Stay tuned and think about it. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to the program. Think about it. We left off talking about how much we as human beings are taxed out. We pay taxes on a daily basis and probably at every single nook and cranny of daily operations. Whenever there's a transaction involved, there's tax involved. So, are our taxes being put to good use? Now, when you take a look at 2022, 2021, 2020, we take a look at the standard of living of an average Canadian. The average Canadian is said to make about $65,000 or less a year, which means that they fall on the tax bracket of 29.65% of their money being taxed. which basically means that they're losing $29,000 if they're on the higher end of it, and they're losing somewhere between $20,000 to $25,000 if they're at the lower end of it. So someone who's per se on paper making 65,000 is not pocketing 65,000, they're pocketing much less. If that is the case, and if that's where we stand, the question that begs to be asked is that tax money that someone is paying, are their needs being fulfilled? Is the government doing its bit to make sure that that person can at least survive and live a comfortable life in the country that they're living in and they're regulating the money and economy for? That's a question and a fruit for thought. With all of these issues, I don't want to talk about expenses and different things because these are things that are probably very evident in everybody's life. The question here is what needs to be done? What needs to be done about this issue, about this problem when it comes to taxes? I have a proposal. Think about it. I'm going to give you the proposal now. We have ministers who make anywhere between $168,000 a year to about $230,000 to $248,000 a year. That is a lot of money that they're making. For what? And that money is coming out of your pocket and mine. I would much rather that money, instead of going to a minister who I can't even approach, who I can't even talk to, who's not going to return my calls, who I'm not going to be able to talk to, who's setting at the end of the policies, who's making policies and just feeding themselves at times, let's be honest. I would much rather come up with a plan that where people who are in a high level area. Now, what is a good salary in Ontario? Let's agree on what a good salary is. I'm not saying a good salary where luxuries come in. I don't want you to go and buy a private jet. That's stupid. A good salary is where you can afford a nice living, you can afford a nice house, you can afford groceries, you can go out every week or so on the weekend, you can go to Wonderland, you can go to Legoland, you can go to any other land, you can do whatever you want and enjoy your time with your family, enjoy your time with your friends, and do something about life as well, and not having to worry about a work-life balance, not worrying about expenses and things. Can we all agree that $100K is a good salary? I'm pretty sure we can. So here's my proposal. All these high-end government officials, forget this entire grid or whatever the case is. $100K, that should be their salary. Everyone, from top to bottom, from JT Trudeau all the way to the MPP, $100K should be their salary. That's it. You can live a good life. You can enjoy yourself. You have a title. You get benefits, right? You live, and sometimes you live in government quarters in places. Utilities are paid for. Other benefits are there. I'm not even saying slash the benefits. I'm saying just make their salary from 200, God knows what, fall down to a reasonable 100K, which is still a lot for a lot of people. It's a dream for a lot of people. And what should happen with that? Now, if you do that with about 80, 90 people, at least 150 people in Canada, that means 150 multiplied by at least 130K. That's in millions. Where should this money go? Who should get this money? The government employees that we deal with every single day. Number one, teachers. Believe it or not, teachers need to get paid well. They're dealing with the future of Canada. Young kids. They need to be compensated and be appreciated. You can cap them at 100K as well, 120K, 110K, but they need to be paid. Police officers, people who set rules, make sure everybody's adhering to the laws, making sure that your citizens are safe at night, making sure that we all progress together. They need to be paid 100K. That's a good salary to have. People who are firefighters need to be paid. Doctors, nurses. In fact, even if you increase everybody's salary in these domains, you still have money left. What should you do with the money that is left? What should you do even if you don't increase the salaries of some of these people? Those immigrants that you called over, those kids who are growing up and don't have money to go to medical school, law school, policing college, and all these other places, provide them that education for free. Train doctors, train nurses. Make sure that that wait time in that hospital decreases. Make sure that the roads are actually doing well. Get government contracts for construction instead of people being private construction workers. You work on the things and the people who deal with Canadians on a daily basis, not those who make rules for Canadians and that's about it, and then walk away. I don't need to come here and talk about cases or people or take names of God knows what. You all know that better than I do. What we need to be thinking about is what's the future? What's the solution? I would be very happy as a teacher, as a professor, as a police officer, as a minister, making $100K a year. All my expenses are being met. Last I checked, my expenses are not $100K. Even if I make more than that, even if I make less than that. Last I checked, $100K are not my expenses. So why are we in a world where there are systems that the Canadian government, the provincial government has put into place, yet they don't allow others to practice it? It's like me telling you that people who have black jackets are welcome into my house. And the moment they come into my house, I tell them, yo, take your black jacket off. It's not allowed in the house. You can't wear the black jacket unless you're wearing a blue shirt. And then you're like, the blue shirt was never mentioned, man. I don't know what you're talking about. That is how immigrants feel. That is how half of Canadians feel who've grown up here, who don't know what they're doing, who are worried about expenses, who are worried about all these other things. Instead of being taxed out, all these government people and everything and our benefits, they need to be maxed out. Fruit for thought. Hopefully we move towards a better direction. And hopefully we move towards a place where a lot of Canadians who have issues today don't have issues. Of course, normal issues in life are inevitable. But what we've been promised and what we're paying for, we should get. Thank you for tuning in. Think about it. Leave a comment below. Subscribe. Share with us what else you want us to talk about. Do our research on. We do thorough research. We make sure that we're over here. We have a team. We have people who are ready to serve. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great week. See you next week. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.